we move forward to today, there's a bit of a story developing, Matt, and the Minnesota Wild. Listen, they're coming off a win. Things were maybe starting to feel a little bit better, although they were still plagued by inconsistencies over the last little bit. And when Kirill Kaprizov was out of the lineup, they could not score. They had like 11 goals over their last 6 games without Kaprizov. It was not good. And now we're potentially getting some news that Kaprizov may need surgery. Bill Guerin is speaking to the media as we are live right now. We haven't heard an update, but Michael Russo is saying that surgery may be more likely than not for Kaprizov, and that would be close to a death blow for them.
Yeah, that's scary for a team that's already, I think they're 7th in the NHL in man games lost. I know Bill Guerin yesterday was saying that it's not an excuse, but they really have been snake bitten. Joel Eriksson-Ek went down, Brock Faber, Jacob Middleton. There's been so many key players hurt at various points. Jonas Brodin. You get Kaprizov back to continue his Hart caliber campaign, and he's immediately hurt. It sounds like he'd still be back in time for the playoffs, but it looks like a scenario where Minnesota is likely to drop now out of that 3rd spot in the Central. You have Colorado coming for them, and that means you're going to have a much tougher playoff matchup. You mentioned the struggling to score, of course, when you're losing that many important players, but also the team save percentage in the last month, 25th in the NHL. Philip Gustafsson was on a heater to start the year. He's gone ice cold. He's given up 4 or more goals in 5 of his last 6 games. So to me, that's just as big of a problem. Goaltending went cold at the same time as the offense, and that's why you're starting to lose some games.
Yeah, and hey, maybe this ties into our poll question ultimately, but if you're Bill Guerin and you're staring down the barrel of, I mean, maybe it's 4 to 6 weeks without Kirill Kaprizov, do you not get a little bit tempted to just pull the trigger on a move now instead of waiting and seeing how the market kind of develops? Like if you like Brock Nelson and he was maybe the guy you had in mind before this Kaprizov surgery news, are you not just going, you know what? New York, what more do you want? You want an extra third? You want me to up a pick somewhere? Let's just get this done so we don't lose a lot of momentum here in the next 4 to 6.
Yeah, I think it accelerates the timeline, and maybe it's still pursuing a Brock Nelson. We've talked about before. He's such a great fit because he could resign in his home state. He's Mr. Minnesota. But also, if it's Kaprizov, you also need to look for a direct replacement on the wing. So do you have to start making calls on players like Oliver Bjorkstrand, someone like that, to replace the scoring on the wings? I also think the Wild, just looking at their lineup, they have the heavy in the bottom 6, but they don't have the heavy skill in the top 6. I always say it's the hardest thing to find. There aren't many players available that have the combination of being a high skill player and also can play a physical game. It could be JT Miller, but that's such a complicated trade to make. So it's a hard piece to find. I do just look at those top 2 lines. I don't think there's enough physicality there. You need a bit more jam. So you got to find it if you're Bill Guerin. Not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's going to be week to week, lower body injury. Surgery, according to Guerin, could happen on Friday. So again, that 4 to 6 week timeline, I think, is what is coming out of Minnesota here. So yeah, I mean, that's a big blow. You talk about maybe wanting a little bit of jam, maybe. And again, the cap situation will make this difficult for a team like Minnesota. But if you can make it work, maybe you do a little one-stop shopping. Maybe you get a couple of forwards from the New York Islanders. Like, what about again, money has to be retained pretty heavily to make this happen. But like Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri, one foul swoop, add a good middle 6 winger and a good top 6 centerman to the mix, and that forward group looks a lot different.
I agree. And the funny part is, we just don't know if the Islanders are ready to sell or whether they're going to wait till the 11th hour because they got hot. If you're an Islanders fan, you're probably saying, no, please stop winning games because this team is going nowhere. They've been going nowhere for years. It's been really bad under Lou Lamoriello. He's still apparently in denial. And if that means he's going to hold on to his chips longer, then what are you going to do? You can't trade for Brock Nelson yet. If the Islanders believe silly wise that they have a chance, but I don't know. This is just the way Lou Lamoriello has operated at this stage of his career. So you may have to look elsewhere if you need help right now.
As you can see on the board here, they're 3 points away from catching the likes of Philly and New York. But when you look at the league-wide standings, they're 3 points away from having a top 5 pick if the Anaheim Ducks can catch them, right? So it's like, oh man, on one hand, I agree with you. I could see Lou going, we're right in the mix. I've seen crazier things happen, but if I'm an Islanders fan, I'm sitting there going, even if we get in, what are we losing in 5 to the Washington Capitals? Give us a top 5 pick, add some legitimate skill to that prospect base. And again, it doesn't need to be a long rebuild if you do it right. If you sit here and try to cling to life for the next bit, that's when it could get a little bit complicated.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.